FPL Game Week 10 top transfer targets. In today's video, we're going to discuss some of the most highly talked about players in FPL this week. We're going to discuss some of those players you are looking to buy, but also some potential players you are looking to sell. Should you be taking out Erling Haaland and should you be bringing in Mo Salah to your teams this week? Who are the best cheap forwards and what will Manchester United look like under a new manager? What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here, and thank you all very much for joining. Now, just before we go into the main part of this video, I want to offer a little bit of an apology. If you watched this video last week, you may have noticed a couple of small errors in the graphics. A couple of the fixtures were wrong, and I think I had a Spurs logo or a Aston Villa logo behind some of the Spurs players. My excuse was I was on holiday last week, and I did my best to still put out every single one of my videos to you and do it as best as possible. But of course, a few things must have slipped through the net. It is not something I like to see in my content, and a few of you did point it out. I'd like to apologize. Some of you say, Harry, you're on your holidays, you've done your best to upload your videos. That's fine, but if I'm uploading, and they should be at the best of the quality. So apologies, it won't be happening again. We're going in and I've checked this video. So if there's anything in this that's not right, then I have absolutely no excuses. But I'm back from my holiday. I've got full time to prep these videos, and let's go. First thing we're going to do is discuss a few players which I know you are considering selling from your teams. The first one is Trent Alexander-Arnold. To be honest, if you've held Trent this long, I think it is time to now keep him. There was a window to potentially sell him, take a little bit of money out from him, but if you've got him in your team now, I think he's more important for the next short-term fixtures than someone like going to a Palmer or a Saka. If it allows you to get Mo Salah, then potentially I think Salah ranks more highly than Trent. And in a few weeks, this debate will change again. When you get to some of those more difficult fixtures over the course of the season, I think Saka, I think Palmer, I think Salah, maybe even Son is more important in your team than Trent at the moment. But at the moment, for the short-term fixtures, I wouldn't go selling Trent. The other thing is, if you're looking for Liverpool defence, I really like Konate at 5.3 million. He looks very, very focal to what Liverpool are doing. They look very solid and he saves you a lot of money. So if you are looking for more premiums going forward, I don't mind having Konate as an option. Next off, we're going to have a look at Spurs. So, of course, they do play Manchester City on Wednesday evening in the EFL Cup. They're expected to rotate heavily, as are Manchester City, but keep an eye on the lineup for that one. Son is expected not to feature in the Cup at all, but he is expected to be back for Aston Villa at the weekend. That is still the plan, and that is still what the reporters on Twitter are saying. To start off with Son, if you went with Son, Spurs are a much better team when Son is in the lineup, so I would be keeping onto him. I don't think I'd be moving to Palmer, and I wouldn't be moving to Saka, and I probably wouldn't even be moving to Salah based off the short-term fixtures that Son does have. However, Dominic Solanke and Brennan Johnson are slightly different options. Brennan Johnson, I feel I would still keep as well. Those midfield options you can move to around that price are still not that great. The only one I'd probably sell to is Brian Mbeumo, who most of you have at Brentford now anyway. So if you have a Brennan Johnson, he's a hold. Son is a hold. Dominic Solanke is a slightly different one. He's not taking shots so far this season. There are strikers in the league having more goals this season than Dominic Solanke has had shots, which is not what you want when you start to look at forwards. He's also not that great for bonus points. He's not on penalties. He's not having a really high goal involvement, and he is missing some chances. So if there are 3 or 4 goals, Solanke is unlikely to be involved in that many, whereas you look at someone like a Cunha, you look at someone like a Wood, I think they are better options than Solanke. So I think Solanke is probably going to be a sell for me this week. If he's not going to be a sell for me this week, he's almost certain to go in game week 12. I think Solanke has a maximum of 2 weeks left in a lot of our teams at the moment at his price. If you wait to game week 12, someone like Jackson of Chelsea is going to be very popular. And the final one is what to do with Erling Haaland. There is no correct answer here. I'm not going to be able to tell you, yes, you need to sell Haaland, you need to buy Salah, or yes, you need to keep Haaland and don't buy Salah. Maybe some of you have got Haaland and Salah in your team, but that means you don't have a Palmer or a Saka, or maybe you've got all 4 of those, but then maybe you're really, tight in defense. There are going to be swings and roundabouts in this, but I am starting to get to the point where it is Haaland versus Salah, and Palm and Saka for me are the ones that I want to keep long term. Yes, Haaland has scored 1 goal in 4 games, but he had over 2 XG and absolutely has the ability to go and score a lot of goals against Bournemouth. 6 goals and 4 goals in their past 2 games against Bournemouth. It absolutely shows that there are chances to be had in this game. I do like Salah, though, at home to Brighton. I don't have an exact answer. It's not an exact science. They're very close between them, and it will be variant, and it'll be a big swing one way or the other, depending on what you want to do. I completely get for these short-term fixtures, Haaland to Cunha, Haaland to Wood, and a cheap midfielder up to Mo Salah looks like a really, really strong option. But if Haaland had finished some of those chances against Southampton, I don't think we would be making that sideways switch. It comes down to captaincy. Which player do you feel more comfortable captaining at the moment, Haaland or Salah? And the answer to that question is the answer to which one you should probably own in your team. I don't love the teams with double Haaland and Salah. They've done well recently, but I still prefer Saka, Palmer from game week 12, and that's the way I've transitioned to my team. At the moment, I plan on keeping Haaland myself, but it is tempting, I understand, to go to Mo Salah. Now, having a look next up at Manchester United, just before we do, these videos are always being sponsored by Fantasy Football Scout. I use their members area to have a look at the players, to have a look at data, have a look at the upcoming fixtures. All of that I take from their app or on their members area. Again, if you sign up for the membership, you get access to their app where you can access it all on the go, compare players, have a look at those fixtures, read articles, all of that top stuff as well. So go and check it out if you want a bit of a discount. But let's talk about Manchester United. So at time recording on Tuesday evening, we have heard pretty much that it is going to be Ruben Amorim from Sporting Lisbon taking over from Ten Hag, who was of course sacked on Monday. However, that has not been confirmed by the club. Fabrizio Romano has given it the here we go. So that is what I am basing it off of. They also have a really nice run of fixtures starting now. So I can understand why some of you are contemplating buying some Manchester United players into your team. At Sporting, he tends to play, and historically he plays a 3-4-3. Now, the interesting thing about this system is it doesn't actually have a natural position for Bruno Fernandes. You've got a predicted lineup on here once everyone is fit and available. Of course, this predicted lineup has Luke Shaw in it, so that is unlikely. It'll most likely be Mazraoui for the time being. That fits in. Bruno Fernandes currently lining up as part of the front three. He could fill in as one of the midfield two and Garnacho comes in, for example. Haaland is likely to keep his place. Fernandes is likely to keep his place. Dalot is, and some of the cheaper defenders are as well. They do tend to be pretty solid. The wing-backs do tend to offer a lot going forward. So if they do play this lineup, Diego Dalot could very well become a very good option. However, I don't think now is exactly the time to be going and investing in Manchester United. We don't know what we're going to get. We don't know how long it's going to be till we see a fully blown system. It's likely to be Ruud van Nistelrooy, at least for the Chelsea game and maybe even the Leicester game before the international break, where they should have a new manager firmly in place. Again, this is speculation. They haven't actually announced a new manager yet. So basically, there are a few options who are definitely on the radar, but this is not the week to go and buy them. Let's keep an eye on it. And once you get to the new manager, then maybe we have a look at a potential new manager bounce, but I'm not going there yet. Speaking about a player who I definitely am looking at is Ait Nouri of Wolves. He's had price rises up and the fixtures now are fantastic. Over the next 6, even into the next 8, the fixtures look really good. Now, the caveat for Ait Nouri is that he's on 4 yellow cards, but unless you're wildcarding in game week 12, I would not let the 4 yellow cards put you off at all. If I told you he starts 5 of the next 6 of the fixtures you've got on screen and missed 1 game, you would still absolutely go and buy him. He is still an option that you should be looking at. He has 5 attacking returns so far this season, an expected return every 5 matches, which even though he's massively overperformed his data from an attacking point of view, is really good. They will get better defensively once they have a slightly improved run of fixtures like they've got now, compared to the most difficult opening 8-9 games of the season that they have. If you are looking for a cheap defender, Ait Nouri is absolutely the defender you should go and buy. The only situation where you shouldn't is if you maybe don't have enough fit defenders. If you only have 3 available defenders and Ait Nouri suddenly gets suspended, then maybe that puts you off. Outside of that, if you have 4, and it looks like Gabriel should be available pretty soon again for Arsenal, I would go and buy Ait Nouri of Wolves. This is the time. This is the fixture run. Now, we want to target a few specific questions in this video, and the first one is cheap forwards. A lot of you will be looking to move off Erling Haaland, move off Dominic Solanke, then move off Dominic Calvert-Lewin as well. All 3 of those I can argue to sell. Haaland I will probably keep. Solanke is a sell. And then Dominic Calvert-Lewin is probably a sell either this week, if not next week. Looking at forwards to buy, Chris Wood has been fantastic and he has been so good for me and he's been on such good form for Nottingham Forest. However, looking at the fixtures, Matheus Cunha is the number 1 forward I would recommend buying in your FPL teams this week. Part of that is the long-term fixture run that we saw when we spoke about Ait Nouri. The other thing is his absolute ability to be so involved in everything that Wolves do and pick up bonus points as a result. They drew 2-2 at the weekend and he picked up 3 bonus points with 1 goal because of how involved he is. He's also very creative, crossing the ball into Strand Larsen on some free kicks as well. 6.5 million, likely to be on penalties, absolutely is the number 1 forward I would look to buy. And Solanke to Cunha is absolutely an option for me. I would buy Cunha over Chris Wood. Chris Wood is probably next up. Despite some more difficult fixtures on the horizon from game week 11 onwards, I still like him. He's playing for a Nottingham Forest team who are just built to create chances for him. He has 60% goal involvement for Nottingham Forest so far this season and is definitely one you should be looking at. But Cunha comes up, and now that 6.4 million for Wood, almost the same price as Cunha, Cunha is the one I would buy. When you look at some of the slightly cheaper ones, you've got basically Strand Larsen, Danny Welbeck, Visa and Jimenez. Visa has been credited with the second goal for the weekend. Sadly, it won't be awarded to him in FPL. Raul Jimenez as well. The only thing is with Jimenez, Fulham don't massively score loads of goals in games, whereas I do see Brentford scoring 3, 4, 5 goals in games because of the way they set up. I think Visa is probably a better buy now than Raul Jimenez. You also have Danny Welbeck and Strand Larsen. Strand Larsen is a nice option at 5.5 if you don't quite have the money, but I do think going for someone like a Welbeck or a Visa is worth it over Strand Larsen, and then Cunha is worth the money over Larsen as well. And then we've got Danny Welbeck on here. He came back from injury and scored against Wolves at the weekend. The next couple are really difficult from him, but from game week 12 onwards, well, game week 11 even, they have a really nice run. And he will absolutely be one of the best forwards to go and buy. Now, we do enter at that point slightly more busy fixture congestion. João Pedro might be back. They, of course, have Evan Ferguson, Reuters playing well, and they have Welbeck. But I just don't see Danny Welbeck being dropped in the way that they are going on at the moment and the form that he's on. So, just to wrap that up, Cunha is the best buy. Wood is still a good buy, but Cunha is a better option now. Short term, the cheaper forwards, I like Visa the most. Danny Welbeck will be a really nice option from game week 11 onwards. And then having a look at the premium midfielders once again. So we did see Phil Foden start, but did blank at home to Southampton. We saw Saka score, Palmer score, Son was out injured, and Mo Salah scores. I do think now we are starting to see Mo Salah, Saka and Palmer being the best long-term picks out of the players on the list. I wouldn't be buying Phil Foden now. Just there's so much uncertainty on him about his minutes. Yes, he started the last one. Yes, he should start, but De Bruyne will be back. The performances are still not fantastic from him. You are much more reliable going on someone like a Palmer or a Saka. Now, the only one elsewhere to talk about is Son. The next 2 fixtures are nice, and if you own Son, absolutely I would keep him. He is expected to be back for Aston Villa at home and then Ipswich at home. Then from game week 12 onwards, Salah, Saka, Palmer are the ones to go and buy. In the last video, I wasn't quite as positive on Mo Salah as maybe I should have been, and I do really like him over the next 3 and as a long-term pick. He is becoming very clinical, and that is very important. He's creating a lot of chances, and he's not shooting as much, because shooting and not converting is bad for your bonus points. Salah is being clinical, and he's creating chances. So in contrary to what we've seen in previous seasons, him scoring goals often means he gets bonus points. Again, a 2-2 draw, Salah scores 1 and gets 3 bonus. That very rarely used to happen, which massively boosts Salah as an option. I think Saka and Palmer are great cheap enablers. Cheaper enablers than Salah, not cheap enablers, right? I do like them both. And I think for the long term, they are the best 2 premium mids in the game. And I would go for Salah or Haaland on top of them. But Salah can't be ignored now. He continues to tick along really well. Again, a single goal means an 8-9 point return for Salah. Whereas for Haaland, because of some of the chances he missed, he only got 6 at the weekend. Sometimes Haaland will get max bonus when he does score, but it happens less now than what we see with Salah. Unlike data, there's not much to pick between them. So I do think Saka and Palmer are the best long-term picks, but for the next 2, their fixtures are slightly more difficult. That's why you might want a Son or a Salah for the long term. Son is fine in sporadic periods. So Foden is not a buy for me now. Saka and Palmer are the best long-term, as I've said, and Salah, if you want him over Haaland, it's not really a Salah versus Palmer versus Saka debate for me. It's a Salah versus Haaland debate. Saka and Palmer I love, and then Salah versus Haaland. Salah just needs to be in the equation, and I feel like I've just massively underestimated him, and it's cost me a little bit in my rank. So just a few other players to finally discuss. The first one up is Chelsea. Apart from Palmer, the 2 real options we're looking at maybe is Sanchez in goal or Colwill in defence and Jackson as well. This isn't really the week to buy them all, though. If you're downgrading a David Raya, I don't mind a Sanchez. He's not been fantastic. There is a very small chance that he does lose his place. I think it's unlikely, but it's not impossible. The fixtures coming up for Chelsea from game week 12 are fantastic, and a lot of us will be looking at Jackson. I plan on going Wood and Cunha, but I do think from game week 12, Jackson will start to become a really good option with those fixtures will be very much one on radar. And even if you need a forward this week, I probably would go Cunha, but I don't mind Jackson for the long-term pick. Yeah, from game week 12, absolutely on radar and one I've got my eyes on. Next up is Morgan Rogers. Now, he got hooked after the 55th minute, a slight change in system, and we have seen a little bit of Champions League fatigue. I wouldn't let that put you off going for Rogers at all if you own him, but it does put me off buying him. He was potentially in my plans for a Mavididi replacement, and it maybe puts me off a little bit. Now, he's only 5.4 million, so what do we really expect? Maybe we need to lower our expectations a little bit, but it did highlight that there are ways that Aston Villa can play without Morgan Rogers, and it won't be the last time we see an early sub from him. And the final one is Keane. I keep getting asked about him because he continues to return, but Branthwaite is going to come back in at some point. I wouldn't be buying Keane of Everton. Branthwaite will come back in for him at some point, and it will be a Tarkowski-Branthwaite with centre-back partnership in front of Pickford with Mikalenko, and then whoever at right back is fit and available at the time. So I wouldn't buy Keane. I wouldn't buy Rogers new. I would keep him. Sanchez and Chelsea in general with Jackson are absolutely ones to look at from game week 12 onwards. That is all for this video. Thank you all very much for putting up with me while I was on holiday last week. Again, I mentioned it at the beginning. Apologies for this video last week. I hope it's still useful. Let me know any questions you have about the players to buy this week in the comment section down below. 2,000 likes is the aim. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe if you are new around here, and I'll be back again very soon.